Beyoncé Renaissance album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest Beyoncé album. Sorry, I'm leaving the air conditioner on for this one because this album is hot. Like she needs an introduction. Like she even needs an introduction at this point in her career. Even in the early days of Beyonce's solo career, even though I wasn't into albums like Dangerously in Love and B-Day, at the very least there were singles on there that made me feel like she was the real deal since breaking off from Destiny's Child. And also, sorry, never been a big Sasha Fierce guy. It was around the time of her 4 album that I became pleasantly surprised with her output. This was a very sharp, sort of retro, but still very current pop album, but more than anything, it really showed Beyonce had become a real star. And if that's how I felt on her 4 album, you can only imagine how I felt about her self-titled album. This is a happening and just an absolute modern masterpiece of pop. It is still to this date her most cinematic, sensualized, and well-produced album. And while I still don't like Lemonade as much as I love her self-titled album, it is still an unbelievably well-crafted and well-produced and well-performed modern pop and R&B record with some great singles. By the way, that live album she dropped from Coachella, it's probably one of the best live albums of the last 10 years. Which leads me to this new album, Renaissance, an album that has been highly anticipated from her fans and critics alike, and I myself got very hyped for it, mostly due to the one single she dropped leading up to this bad boy. Let's chat about this album. This thing starts off with I'm That Girl. And yeah, this is a banger, mostly due to Beyonce's swagger, her performance on this track. I love how this beat also grows from a very minimal, cold, sort of icy beat to one that has these really weird left field grooves to it. And God, the amount of confidence in her bars is infectious. It ends up being surprisingly hypnotic. I love her vocal performance here, the sheer swagger of it. It is an awesome intro. Cozy, on the other hand, turns things up many notches. This one doesn't waste a single second going for a serious throwback dance pop groove, and it is awesome. I mean, I'm just going to say it, as far as beats go, this album had my toe tapping almost the entire time. It's fresh, it's groovy, and most importantly, Beyonce comes off just as she is, and that is a modern pop phenom. It is just so obvious. God, it's full of personality, and also the very positive vibes in the lyrics here are really nice too. By the time we get to Alien Superstar, all I can say is, where even are we? This is a freakish left field banger dripping with confidence. I mean, the chorus is a little cheesy. Then we get an interpolation of I'm too sexy, and you know what? It's a little much. But outside of that, I cannot say no to this track at all. It is a weirdo banger for the ages, and it really gets me moving. Cuff It is another pop throwback banger, but one that's a little bit more on the rails. But that's not a slight. It's very fresh sounding. It's very new. I love this freaking funky bass riff that we get here. Her vocals are very soulful. This track almost has a new disco feel to it. It's sexy. It's confident. It goes hard. It reminds me so much of the pop that I grew up with. Energy is by far the shortest track here, but that doesn't stop it from really going hard. This one practically has some dancehall vibes, even though it's very minimal, very cold. But the grooves are here for sure. This one really got me up and moving once again. Now, there's been some drama with this track. The Khalees sample, the taking out of the Khalees sample. It is a lot, and you can think whatever you want on the matter. I know that it kind of goes both ways. There's a lot of people that see both sides of the story, but honestly, I think the taking out of the sample doesn't really change much. And Break My Soul is nothing short of an anthem. From the first time I heard this track, I was obsessed with it. This is by far the best pop tune I've heard all year, and it's not even close. The intro here sounds like a damn party waiting to happen. The beat and the groove, the dance groove here, takes me back to such a simpler time. Her performance is ridiculous. I don't know, this is just rubbing all the right spots. It sounds like such a damn happening. I needed a shower after the first time I heard this. Church Girl is really great too. I mean, I feel like so much of this album is like a victory lap for Beyoncé. This track is equal parts classy and a little kinky. I love the soulful sample that we get here, as well as just how silky smooth this track gets. But it's also got its fair share of spicy, very steamy one-liners. This track is a party waiting to happen. And her performance once again oozes confidence and swagger. This is a happening. We also get some old school throwback R&B tracks like Plastic Off the Sofa. Once again, this track is steamy, sultry, and impossibly smooth. I love this throwback, sort of funky riff that we get once again, and the layered vocals on the chorus here make this track pop. I mean, I kind of had a feeling going into this album that I was going to like what Beyoncé was doing, but I didn't think it was going to be instantaneous as this. Whoa, Nelly, this is some great pop. Yeah, I don't have a lot of bad things to say. Move, to me, though, sadly is one of the lesser tracks here. Probably my least favorite one. It's a very hushed banger with some impressive guests. I mean, hey, it's Grace Jones! Grace Jones! But it's the songwriting on this track that really leaves a lot to be desired. It's just not as exciting or as blood-pumping as the rest of this album. It's not for me. This is very safe. Also, this beat is easily the least interesting one here. Heated has also gained its fair share of controversy as well, mostly due to the lyrics. I'm not touching it. Whatever your side of the argument is on this track, I still think it's one of the lesser moments here, especially vocal-wise. Beyoncé's vocals on this track are easily some of her least impressive. Like, this sounds like it would have turned up on the new Drake album. No, that's not good. But outside of that, I'm really impressed. For a glossy, new disco-inspired tune, look no further than Virgo's Groove. I'm so impressed with this track, especially with just how confident and sultry this continues to be. It does a really great job of saluting where R&B and pop was for many years, but really shining it up really nice and giving it some really great packaging. This is far from just another sort of retro-tinged nostalgia project. This track comes off like a real journey, and it's one that I want to listen to again and again. And that's ballsy because the track's over 6 minutes, but it is a risk that pays off. Thique, on the other hand, takes this album on a sharp left turn. This is a much more toned down, grisly, ruthless track. And so far, this has been a very steamy and sexy album, but we've hit a peak, friends. It is grimy as hell. I did not know that Beyoncé had a track like this in her, but she does, and I once again need a shower. And the second half of this track has some really great twists and turns that I really love. There's a lot of weird experiments later on in the album. Take, for example, All Up in Your Mind. This has been a very retro-sounding, classic pop and R&B project, but then we get this. This is much grittier, grimier, and in your face. But a lot of the themes and the elements of this album are clinging on to dear life to this track, and that's not a bad thing. The explosive vocals, the sultry lyrics, my God, the swagger. America Has a Problem is one of the more experimental cuts here. We get this weird sample that sounds kind of ripped directly out of the 80s golden age of hip-hop, followed by one of the sharpest, most streamlined beats on this album, as well as Beyoncé's performance, which is easily her most focused here. It's killer. By the time Pure Honey rolls around, I'm just so in love with the beats on this album. I'm not even shocked when I love them anymore. And I keep talking about the confidence of this project, but Beyoncé continues to absolutely kill it. The harsh, jagged production is really great too. Most of this album really deserves that spot on your workout playlist and probably your sex playlist. Sorry. And Summer Renaissance as a finale. I mean, we're 16 tracks in and Beyoncé just keeps whipping out pop anthems like it's her job. It kind of is. Big hooks, dazzling one-liners. A lot of this album is just the pop album that we really needed right now. And you can call out the samples on this track. You can call out the interpolations. There's quite a few, but they pretty much come off tastefully and really classy and not cringeworthy. If you're going to listen to a pop album this year, can you do me a favor? Can you make it this one? Because I think it's really good. I mean, leading up to this album, Break My Soul made me think I was going to love this album, but the consistency, the sheer swagger of this album, the beats, the production, so much of it is just so good. And yes, it's a little retro. That's not your thing. You might not like it, but as far as a pop album full of anthems, life-affirming anthems that are just oozing with confidence, personality, and sharp lines and big hooks. Look no further than this. I'm feeling a light 9 on this album, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.